Hello, my name is Magnus, and I want to talk a bit about BIM usability on site, and then a bit about augmented reality. So, my agenda of today is that I'm going to give a small introduction, and then what Digby just did is just do a short presentation about what's the problem, but we've just heard about that, so this is great for me. Then I'm going to talk a bit about BIM usability on site and the Deluxe BIM viewer and TwinBIM, our augmented reality device or application. And then I'm going to sum up with a small talk about the future of construction and digitalization, and then of course some questions. So, just to introduce myself, my name is Magnus, and I work as a consultant for a Danish-based company called Deluxe. And we work as a software developer company, and we develop applications for the construction industry. We have the world-leading cloud-based 3D technology, meaning that we can show these big BIM models on mobile devices. And we are the most downloaded construction app in the Nordic countries. So we are based in Denmark. We have offices across the Nordic countries, but we just started an office here in Lithuania and in UK as well. So we are spreading out across Europe at the moment. So just a quick talk about what's the issue is that we see all these projects going over budget. Digby explained it quite well, I would say. And this is not where I have my focus, but we see from on so many projects, again, over and over again, that they go overdue, over budget, and it's not just a few percentages. We often see 100%, 200% over budget. So an example of this is the a new university building in Denmark called Niels Bohr building. This went 1 billion Danish crowns above budget, which means, I would say, $140 million. So that's quite a big overdue, yeah. Another example is the new Danish broadcasting building, which went 1.7 billion above budget. And again, this is something we see again and again and again. If it's not a public building, you probably wouldn't notice, because then there's just a company that eats that overdue or over budget. But we see it again and again. So one of the tools that's been talked about is the new thing that could help the construction industry is BIM. And gladly, I'm not here to discuss if BIM is the new tool that would save us all. I'm just here to talk a bit about what we do at Deluxe and how we can utilize these BIM models better on site. So, in the construction industry, when we talk about BIM, we have this big collaboration around the BIM model in the design phase. So we have the BIM model, we have each participants around this BIM model, and they all put in their information to this collaborated BIM model. So we have a lot of information about the building, a lot of information about the different objects in the building. And what happens when we take this information and go to production? We create a 2D drawing. So the people on site that's going to build the actual project, they have a 2D drawing. In the back office, we have a BIM model with information about height, offset, colors, all this information that's lost when you take that and create a 2D drawing. So the actual builders, they just have a 2D drawing and nothing else but that. Of course, we have construction managers who's able to make some collision controls and all that, but the guys who's building, they need this information, or they can benefit from this information, I would say. So what we've done in Deluxe is we created a BIM viewer. And a BIM viewer you can use on your mobile device. So what we tend to do at Deluxe is make user-friendly software that's easy to use on site. Because when you go to a 3D model, if you don't have experience walking around a 3D model, it takes you 2 seconds and then you're lost. So what we do is we have created the software that makes it possible to take these real big BIM models on site and you have the information directly on a device. So at the moment, this is a free software. You can download and use it to explore your models on site, and it's used in over 90 countries around the world. So instead of just talking about it, I really want to give a small demonstration of it. So, can you see? Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's a bit confusing. Yeah, but this is my mobile device. And here I have a 2D drawing. So when the project managers uploads the 3D model and the 2D drawing, you have that directly here on site. And every time they update this information, you would have that newest information on site. So you don't need to, like whenever there's a new version, you would have that directly on your device. A pocket of a tool you already have in your pocket. This is now a very powerful site, tool site. So I can navigate around this 2D drawing and see the information here. So if I click on a room, I will have all the parameters of that room assigned to it. I will have that directly on my phone. But where it gets really, really good is that you can take that room and click on 3D. So now I have my 3D model directly in my pocket and I can walk around it. And what we see for this to be user-friendly for people who's never been able to walk around a 3D model before is that we have the 2D drawing on top. So you can always see where you're walking, where you're at in the building, and you have that information directly up here. You can also use that drawing just to press any room you wanted to go to. If I wanted to see the staircases, I just go there. Zoom in and zoom out. The same goes for the possibility to create different filters. So different filters can be very beneficial for different workers. So for example, I have a construction view here. So I've just used the parameters of my Revit model to create different filters, and I'm able to use these filters directly on my device here. This is just the architectural model, and it goes on and on and on. Another thing, you can create sections directly here on your device in real time. You could also do it here, if that would make more sense. And it's all done on a device I have in my pocket already. You can, of course, hide stuff. If that's something you would need to have some information behind a wall or something, could be the ceiling, if you wanted to see the ventilation, or of course you would need to hit the right spots. Let me go out here, that's better. So you can see all that, what's behind the ceiling, and you have that available on a mobile device. Yeah, and again, whenever you add information to the model as a parameter, you have that in your pocket. So if you have a ventilation pipe, you can see the offset of that pipe directly in your pocket. You're not able to see that on a 2D drawing. So whenever you add information in BIM model, you have that information on site. So that's our viewer. And when I say it's the best viewer on the market, I have an example here. This is a guy called Stephen Au who uses this BIM tool in Hong Kong. He has a project with 5 skyscrapers, 189 Revit models, all federated in Dialogs, and he's able to show that on his iPhone. So that's 2.6 a million square meters of BIM model directly in your pocket, with information attached to every object. That's quite impressive, I would say. So what we've done on top of this software, we have now looked into the new thing called augmented reality, AR. So when we wanted to bring this tool into Deluxe, we had a bit of different success criteria that we wanted to be able to. So because we have this BIM model on a mobile device, we wanted to share this technology into this. So one of the things was we wanted AR without these space helmets. I'll get back to that later. We wanted it to be flexible, so different people on site could use this very easy, and we wanted to fit it into a mobile device. So I will just show you a small video. This is a company called Mazzarati, who made a video of this on a project called Vortex in Switzerland. So this is just a small video that shows how they used it. So they can see, when they go on, so that here they can see what's behind the walls and what's coming. So here you have ventilation shaft behind the wall. When you go a little further, you can see the walls that's coming, that's not been built yet. Here you go. So here you just have the concrete and you can see where the wall's coming, but it's not there yet. So you have that information directly on site. I'll try to do a live demo later, so we'll see if it works. Yeah, and they use this on a big project in Switzerland, and they all have that when they walk around the site. So the developing of this tool started in 2016 because Google launched HoloLens, and HoloLens was the first technology that could fit this, make this AR. So of course what we did at Deluxe, we bought a HoloLens for $3,500. That's a lot of money. So HoloLens is a solution where you take these glasses on and you can walk around and see your BIM model on site and what you see in real life as well. Some of the barriers of the HoloLens is that you need to have a safety helmet. This was back in 2016. I know that Trimble have come across this, so of course it's possible, but that was the barriers back in 2016. HoloLenses, each glasses are very expensive. I think they would cost around $5,000 a piece. So there's a big expense to put into a new technology where you don't know if it's working yet. And of course there's short battery limitations. So when you use it, it's from half an hour to 2 hours. So what happened in 2017? Google launched Tango. So they took the technology of the HoloLens, put that into a phone, and then we were able to develop this for the Google Tango phone. So in 2017, we released AR on a mobile device. This was never seen done before, so this was revolutionary. Of course, we got a lot of press release for that. That's very good. But the limitation of this was that you needed a Google Tango phone. There were 2 pieces of phone devices that had this software in the world. So again, we were limited to a special phone. What happened here in the start of 2018 is that Google created AR Core and Apple created something called AR Kit. And they released this across their mobile devices. This also meant that Google Tango died because the software was just getting too old, so they invented this new one that's a lot better and it fits into our everyday phone. So we started off with the HoloLens as a proof of concept. It worked, but you have these different barriers. It was very costly. We got onto the Google Tango. Again, we was limited to 2 devices. That was the only one who could use the software. When we had the HoloLens, we had 0 customers using this. Then we got to the Google Tango. We now had 2 customers using this software. Then we released it in July 2017 18 for an everyday phone with AR Kit and AR Core. So this means for example, for iPhones, it's iPhone SE. So this means that all of a sudden everyone could use this piece of information. So that also means that we now have not just these few users of the software, we now have a lot, like thousands, because they use our viewer for this. And then let's see if I can do a short demo of this. So I'm gonna edit. I'm just gonna change project. So I'm gonna go into my locations. I'm gonna pick a 2D drawing now. I'm just gonna turn off the snacks so it's not that confusing. So I go in here, I find the room that I'm standing in. I place myself in the middle because this is a presentation. Normally you would put yourself in a corner because you have to align the BIM model to a corner. Maybe I should actually stand out here because that's better. So here I have my 3D model. Again, I have all the information here about the different objects in the BIM model. But now I have the ability to click on AR down in the left corner. So I click on AR, and let's see if it works, because I need a bit of lighting on the floor, because I need to scan a reference point. This was actually quite easy. Then I would rotate the model and find a corner. This is again an example. This is actually a DTU project back in Denmark. So this is not the accurate room, but you'll get the point. So when I find the location in the corner, I save the location, and bam. I now have my real life, and I have my BIM model at the same time. So here I can click on objects, I can save or hide them. Again, I can click on them, and I can see the information about them. I talked to a contractor in UK, and they said that each year they spent like a 2-digit million number on correction errors. For example, for when you put a ventilation through a concrete wall, they will do the holes in the wrong places, and then they have to correct them and then make a new one. So it's a big industry to see where your piping go, for example, through your walls. Make sure that you put them in the right place. And at the same time, you have the information about these. So on top of this, we added a snacking tool. So you can click on items in your BIM model and create a snack. Let's say I wanted to create a snack. I now have the ability to send this to my carpenter, and he would get it directly in on his device, in his inbox, and he could respond it back to me. So you would add a subject, I could add pictures. Let's just take a few pictures, add some annotations to this. I could also, if I wanted to, I could write a little information here. Bam, bam, save. And now all this, or of course I need a subject. This is wrong dimension, just an example. I send this off. It takes 5 to 10 seconds, and it goes from my inbox to the carpenter, and now he can see this snack is in his inbox. And you would have a list of all your snack-ins directly in Deluxe. You can make big reports of this, and then go to the construction site and say what's wrong and what's that. So an example of this is that when I did my master at Aalborg University, we had this new big building for the construction department. Of course, it was 2 years delayed, and when we moved into the building, there was still a snacking list of 1,300. Good one. Of 1,300 snaggings for different objects in the building that wasn't errors or stuff like that. They had this in an Excel spreadsheet. So that gets really confusing really fast because you lose the overview of where you're at and the status of these, because what about the pictures? You can't assign them in an Excel spreadsheet, so you need to have them somewhere else. So Dialogs is all about using the software or a mobile phone, the device you have, the tools you have already, and put them onto the construction site. Because this is something everyone has. They have the tools, they can have the information directly in their pocket. So just to have a small discussion about what we see as a software developer about creating new tools for the construction industry, is that these tools can make the processes a lot better, but there's one thing we have to change in the construction industry, and that's the mindset. Because when you go to a site and a contractor, a carpenter, for example, has done their job for 40 years, we need to change the mindset of what they've done is probably maybe not the best way, and there's things they can make better, and you can do this with this new technology that's coming. Another thing we see as a software developer is that you need to focus on the end user. So our software is meant for the entire construction phase. Maybe 5% of who's using this is BIM managers in the office, it's architects and all that stuff. The last 95%, that's people on site. And for them to use a 3D tool, it just needs to be simplified, it needs to be user-friendly and intuitive. If it's not that, then they won't use it. Of course, then we also need to focus on speed, because these new tools that we add in, they have to be easier than what they've done prior. So it's also about introducing new technology that's going to take up what they've done before and make that easier and faster. Yeah, that's my small presentation.
So it seems now everybody is thinking how much money they have and can they buy this kind of software here or lease it, whatever. So, but let's start with the questions.
So the question is about the database. Once you have all the information with the model and everything, you have to build up that database that is always construction site based, or do you keep all the data somewhere else?
We store it in our servers. So we have servers in Denmark, Germany, UK as well. So that information is stored on those servers. Of course, you would have to set up the system in the browser. And that's where you set up the system, that's where you upload the BIM models, set up the different views, give people access to the system. So of course there's some setting up in the site, like back in the office, but that's where you set up the system and grant permission to the system.
Question about scaling your product for infrastructure side.
Oh, that's a good one.
You are doing some scaling based on room,
yeah.
You see from phone, but what about if you don't have such objects?
Oh, that's a good one, because actually at the moment we're working on, because right now it's focused on buildings, and we see that doesn't work for infrastructure projects. So we are actually developing the software to make it possible to use infrastructure projects as well. At the moment, I think the limitation is 3 kilometers on the BIM model, but it was supposed to be released last week, but of course it got delayed, so I can't show you it. But if you want, we can have a talk, and you can probably see it later. Yeah, but we know there's a lot of other things in an infrastructure project. Right now we use levels. Levels is kind of useful or useless in an infrastructure project. So that's something we are looking at because we need these different coordinates for infrastructure projects. We have a feature where you can use the GPS, but it's not really that accurate, so you can't really use it. Yeah, but we know. Also because there's a big market for this.
So how do you get the information in from the designers? How is the information moved? Is it IFC? Is it something else? Is it direct?
So at the moment we support IFC, and we have a plugin for Revit. We are developing for Navisworks and ArchiCAD, and one more at the moment, Tekla. But at the moment, either EFC, and if you have it as information in the IFC file or in Revit, if you upload it, we will have that information directly in Dialog. So you don't need to set anything up. If you have the information in the BIM model, you would have it in Dialog as well.
So, additional questions. Business proposals.
How much does it cost?
Oh, that's a good question. So yeah, there's different price models, and we have user-based licensing, we have project-based licensing. So it really depends on how many users you would have, how big the project is. So it depends. It depends on the project. If you just want to buy one license for the software, I think it's 95 euros. But you could use that across multiple projects. But yeah, really depends on the project, because if you have a large project, user-based license would be a bad solution. Yeah.